Hello everyone, it's great to meet you. My name is Burnett and I work at the National Gallery in London on the Heritage Science Data Service or HSDS project. And I'm going to be presenting to you today on Mark Once, Link Everywhere, Anchoring Research Data and Images with IIIF Annotations. So this work has been done with a lot of people, in particular with Joe Padfield, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, so I'm presenting on his behalf instead. The HSDS project is a wider UKRI-funded Riches project, which is doing a lot of different things at the gallery. But the thing that's most of use to us here, or most of interest, is our work with digital documentation. While we're doing this, we're improving the gallery's own digital documentation. We've been focusing on paint samples, which for those of you who don't know, they're kind of very small, tiny pinpricks on a painting, which can be examined and analyzed to understand the painting better, how it was made, how to better preserve it, things like that. And they look something like this. This is a cross-section from a painting. As you can see, it's extremely small, 100 micrometers. And you can sort of see here that there's a gray level of overpaint over the top of the white level. They're so small that they're essentially kind of one-dimensional, which means that we can mark them using IIIF annotations. So we already have a digital sample point system, which we use to mark the location of a sample site on a painting, because obviously that's very important to understand how the painting was made. You need to understand where the sample was taken from. We already have these annotations. They provide some sort of basic information about the painting, as you can see. But this kind of system is very simple. It's a bespoke system, for one thing, developed by Joe, which means it could be deprecated in future, and it also could be better integrated within other systems. So in that regard, we've been working with Cartography, who developed the software Research Space, which is an open source knowledge graph-based system for digital documentation. We're using this in other parts of the HSDS project as well, and it's being used by many other institutions in the UK and further afield too. So if you don't know what a knowledge graph system is, I think probably many people do. I was talking to people about semantic things outside before. It's essentially this kind of thing. It's a subject-predicate-object relationship structure of data instead of a tabular structure of data. So that allows kind of more complicated modeling and more complicated queries. So for instance, you can see here, all three of these paintings are linked to the same artist through a series of relationships in the CDOC CRM ontology. And this painting is related to the same sort of program of sampling through multiple sample-taking events. So we've been, having done some development work with Cartography, we have this kind of more advanced digital sample point system within Research Space, which I appreciate does look very similar, but I can tell you that it's not behind the scenes. When I create an annotation in this viewer, again, using IIIF, it is creating a lot of other things behind the scenes within the knowledge graph. So I create this point within the knowledge graph, and it creates all of these other ones automatically. It creates the sample site, which represents the point on the painting where the sample was taken from, the place that indicates that as well, and then the sample taking and the sample itself. So this is a very simple point, but it's kind of very important to say that the IIIF annotation here is the anchor. It connects the painting to the samples themselves. The IIIF image and the annotations on it are representing the real act of sampling, and they're directly integrated within the knowledge graph. We can then hang all kinds of other metadata off this. So for instance, we can put things to do with the sample, to do with the event that takes the sample, and kind of a good way of thinking about it is that the relationship between the annotation and the sample site is much like the relationship between the image and the painting itself. We can then do more complicated queries based on things like date, as well, anything that a knowledge graph allows. So in terms of the sort of next steps that we're going to do in future, we are continuing to develop this work. As I mentioned, it's kind of in the middle of being developed. So we are testing it currently. We're hoping to integrate it with the other things that we do, such as scientific imagery. And we're also going to expand it to photomicrographs, which would instead be kind of annotated areas as opposed to annotated points, but would be very similar within the system. And we hope also to soon use external IIIF servers, i.e. our own servers, because currently all of this testing has been done with Research Space's internal IIIF servers, and obviously for interoperability it would be better in the future to use this. And cartography told me as well that this works using a semantic annotation mode in Mirador libraries, and that it is generic and extendable, so people could also use this software themselves. As I mentioned, Research Space is open source. So thank you very much for listening, and if you have any questions, please ask at the end. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Rama Mwinyimbegu. I'm a software developer at the University Leiden Library. And I'm going to be talking about a plugin that I made for Mirador. So a shout out to Marlo, wherever you are. See? You might have some more questions for me now. So as a developer at the university, I was involved in generating code for creating code that would actually generate IIIF manifests from our digital collections, Presentation API 2, and then eventually 3. And I was also involved in actually implementing Mirador and using certain plugins. But then things got a bit more interesting. So, as you know, who am I? I specifically put a picture there of me and my kids because my kids are very curious, just as I am. And as a software developer who sits in his dungeon to develop code and everything, I was always like questioning myself, what am I actually looking at? Because like most people with IIIF, they know, oh, this is this image, that's that going on. But I don't know often what is going on. So what happens is like for a regular manifest with annotations, you load it into a viewer, and then you can view the annotations and so forth. But what if you don't speak the language, you don't understand it? So at least I don't know what I'm looking at. So coming back to my kids, like asking, what is this and what's that? So I couldn't answer. So what I did was I took a manifest with annotations, and I used AI to talk to the annotations. So what I would actually do is ask a question, embed the question locally, using, in this case for the technical guys, Lama. And then, actually, wait, I'll move back. I embedded also all the annotations, so I can do actually a semantic search on the annotations. So I would use AI to like, hey, what's this? What is it saying? Based on a specific annotation on that page, as you can see. So this is how it looks like. So you have the annotation. Below you have like the chat plugin that I created in Mirador, which was easy, as you said, Marla. It's pretty cool. And there I have a backend that I built myself, which actually handles the communication with the remote AI and actually does all the embedding. And it actually sends your question with the answers that it got based on semantic search to the AI and then responds. So you're talking to that annotation. Well, I thought I could go a little bit further than this. So what did I do? Oh, wait. Before I go further, I'm moving way too fast. I'd like to show you, how does that work? A clip of how it looks like talking to an annotation. Didn't get it right? Oh, yeah. This video is actually, it's a lot faster than it should be because I thought if I would show you the whole video like in regular speed, it would take too long. So the AI is not that fast. So there you could see an asked question, it responds, and it comes back with certain answers. But this is only talking to annotations. What if you have an image that you don't understand and you're actually trying to figure out how that works? So in the next slide, you see an image. There's an image from our collection, and it is, I think, a cathedral in Cologne. And what I thought was, for example, you could either talk directly to the image, And in some cases, that worked out okay, but in some cases, it would be better to actually add some metadata. But let's see how this works. So here I'm asking a question, and thinking about the presentation we had today about from Digarati and from the page, what actually happens is that I send this image to, in this case, the model I'm using is OpenAI, an image URL from I retrieve the image URL out of the triplet manifest. In this case, I'm sending a 512 by 512 image to the image model, and it responds. And also made sure that I only send the image once, because you don't have to send it constantly. Just send it once, it stays in memory, and you can just chat throughout this whole time. And it specifically only chats with this canvas of in this manifest. So if you have like a whole book, you can actually select certain pages to, ask questions to. As you can see there at the top, I'm only using the image as context, if I'm correct. And in this case here, which is maybe a bit too fast, not quite sure. Is this the, oh wait. I think we just saw this one, my bad. So this is a book. I mean, I don't know anything about this book. So I thought, let me ask something about this book. And to be all fairness, I mean, sometimes it returns good answers, sometimes incorrect answers. I'm not quite sure because I can't verify what is right or wrong. So in this case, I sent also the metadata that is within the manifest itself to help the AI to kind of understand more or less what's happening. And in this use case, I was actually interested what is happening in that image there. So I actually just like send the image there and ask questions about it, and I get an answer back. The whole point of this is that I wanted to experiment with using the manifests and AI to, like, for a regular person like me or like a software developer, to be able to ask questions about images or about the text, because it can also, like I think we've all seen today, it can also transcribe as well. And this will be an interesting plugin for manuscripts, other images, and so forth. And this is still the same video, and with the context, you can let it in there too. Thanks to Mirador, Marlo. And questions for later. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, I'm Albin Larsson. I'm a research engineer at the Swedish National Archives. I'm also a very lucky person because I get to work in a project called Codicum, a project about medieval manuscripts. And it's especially focused on reassembling manuscript fragments. And in particular on that topic, I know it's something that has been discussed many times for more than 10 years throughout, like, in the IIIF community. We are working on a tool that lets you reassemble medieval manuscripts and manuscript fragments. And I'm very lucky here and happy to say that we're working with Rainer and Simon on this. It's not ready just yet, but we are starting to test it, and it's something we are slowly but surely putting together. And Codicum is a massive project with a lot of stakeholders, because these manuscript fragments are spread everywhere. They're really fragmented. When it comes to holding institutions, we have a lot of them. And when you're doing a research project like this and you want to reassemble them, the easy answer is always like, hey, let's build an aggregator. We don't want to deal with dependencies from 20 institutions. Let's aggregate the content, build a little bit of infrastructure, just keep it there, be in full control. That's the easy solution. The problem is this. This is a project, and it runs for a couple of years and then it ends. we have all been here. What happens to the infrastructure then? I like to call this time until 404. The time a project starts, you can start the clock. And depending on the institutions or the people that were involved in the project, this differs, but it comes down to this. Project funding, when it comes to infrastructure, is not the best solution. So we tried to do something different. We're trying to build almost no new infrastructure. Instead, we're taking these partners and we say, hey, let's invest in what you already have. Let's promote things like IIIF. David Haskia, we haven't actually spoken, but have been name-dropped a few times. We were just in Helsinki last week, together with a couple of people from the IIIF consortium, with only one task: promote IIIF, so we can do this thing. Another thing is, of course, let's use open licenses, both for data and for the software. And the hope here is that the result will be decentralized infrastructure, which sounds fancy, but it's very much about decentralizing the burden and sharing the burden. Because at the end of a project with a lot of partners, you need to figure out who is going to host this infrastructure. We are trying to avoid that. We're trying to be, hey, we already have our infrastructure. We don't have any new. You just keep on going. And the hope is that this creates resilience against project funding. And with that, I'm kind of going down, being finished here, but what I want to say, this is a lightning talk. In 4 or 5 years when this project is over, call me. Come talk to me and be like, hey, Albin, what happened to that? Did it work out? And maybe I could have a longer presentation on this topic. So those of you who know me and have my number, put that down in your calendars. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, so I'm Antoine Isaac. I work at the Europeana Foundation, and I'm probably next to the last author of this of the work I'm going to present today, which is from the CommonsDB project that includes many people, as you can see here, and it's a true collaboration. And this presentation happens to take stuff from pretty much everyone in the project. So this is about building a registry for public domain and openly licensed assets. So the CommonsDB project, the idea was to, at the start, strengthen the links between the works and right information, which is sometimes a bit fragile, we can observe, to enable anyone to access rights information directly from a work. And by this, I mean the content, the images that somebody could get somewhere, and then they wonder whether they can use it, what's the context, etc. And we do want to help people with that, to also help solving attribution challenges for cultural heritage institutions, to make sure that things are rightly attributed across the board. And we do that. We want to do that with a good level of certainty, with things that are verifiable. With identification of who guarantees the status of works, that we can trust. So CommonsDB for this rely first on fingerprinting the content, identifying it, and creating international standard content code. So basically taking the content and generating a fingerprint for it, then associating it with some metadata. And putting this in a framework of signed declarations that are verifiable and using good credentials and so on in a way that's compatible with the EU regulations. And the idea is not to have this necessarily centralized. It can be decentralized with a set of registries that would exchange information about those declarations. So each registry has these codes that I mentioned. It has right statements that describe the status of the work, noting that because this is for public and openly licensed assets, There are only a selected set of licenses type that are accepted. We also have the identity and the credentials of the declaring party, a link to a data supplier original infrastructure, and some provenance chain about, well, which declaration was made and how and whether things have been changed. So that can be explored in a very simple interface. So you can see that we are currently having 3 million declarations currently. And this allows to search for a declaration for work. So this is an example of declaration. So you see an asset, and you have the information that I've presented, the source, who declared it, the declaration ID, the right statements, and so on. It's also possible using this code that I've mentioned to do some lookup by content. So if you get an image, then you can stick it in the service and get the declarations that have been made for assets that look like this image, and it's robust to some changes. We've done some tests in the project. So this is the view of Delft. If you happen to add some birds flying over, it will also recognize the original object. And if at some point you add too many things in the sky, then it will not bring them back because it would be too different. So it cannot solve every issue. So we've got some documentation online. So all this is available. And now for widening to IIIF. So data suppliers. So we are looking for organizations actually who would like would be interested to use this platform. So currently the project works with Europeana Foundation and Wikimedia Sweden, but we are open to onboard new data suppliers in the few months that the project has. So please come to us if you're interested. And the relationship with IIIF. So we won't actually solve all the content commons issues that Martin and Tom have mentioned this morning, but there could be a relation, because we could apply CommonsDB processes to IIIF resources. I was hoping to come to the conference and say it's going to be straightforward. It's actually possible, but not that straightforward. There would be some holes to close, and I'm not going to go down through this. The slides will be shared. So it's possible to apply CommonsDB process to IIIF resources, but not for all IIIF resources, and there could be some things to do to make it work in the detail. It's also possible to include some CommonsDB element into IIIF resources. So those codes that I've mentioned that can provide similarity-based searches, they could be included, and that could be useful to provide some interesting services on top of IIIF resources. It would be also interesting to include the declarations into the presentation API manifest, so that people can have some trust about where do things come from and whether the rights are actually trustable. So in the sense of bringing them a bit, uplifting them maybe towards more formality. So I'll be at Thursday's Bird of a Feather session. Maybe we can derail it a bit. So sorry, Tom and Martin, but I'm really curious to see if there could be a connection between our project and this notion of content commons. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. So to continue this sort of daft naming scheme of projects, was inspired by a show called the IT Crowd, and if you've ever seen that episode of Internet in a Box, this is IIIF-in-a-Box. And sorry, I'm John Moore from the National Archives in the UK. Should have said that. So one of the challenges that I particularly face is, and I've sort of coined this as a delivery gap. So I'm in the research department, but our main infrastructure is focused on our catalogue. So it's quite difficult if you work on projects So the other departments like education department, there's exhibitions department, we have similar challenges where we want to kind of have these digital services running, but there's a bit of tension between our projects and the long-standing catalogue systems. So the catalogue is king for an archive. So IIIF gives a really good solution to sort of solve some of these problems. And part of that was really to try and package up a solution that we could easily deploy. So I've been using it internally to do demos rather than just running on my own laptop. But actually, it's been now deployed for prototypes like Digital Doomsday. The main concept is the box is a fundamental unit in itself. So everything is reproducible, and it comes through this kind of GitOps, DevOps pipeline. It's completely immutable, read-only. So you build this box, and you can just destroy the box if you want, and build another one. So it can be automated, and it could be automated from your infrastructure if you've got the data in your infrastructure. The main way it works is just it's a simple bootstrap script which takes content from a Git repository, but it's basically the annotation content, which is the key sort of source of truth. So the images and a YAML file, which is the metadata that helps to build the manifests. But really it's driven from the annotation content, and that's really the important thing for us, is to track the provenance of the annotations and the edits, especially with AI editing and other processes that are happening. Once you run this script, it basically turns into an embeddable service. So you can then just, using IIIF's way, just embed that into your content management system. So it kind of looks seamless, but it's running from a different technology stack, which is, again, like very important for us and some of the tensions that I mentioned. So I've been using it to do testing some features and testing features in the viewer, sorry. Yeah, you can sort of build these boxes and destroy them. It has a project focus, which is important for us. You can allocate like project owners. You can have a service owner when it's running. So it kind of fits in with some of the like ways that like institutions like mine works. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's running. If you have a look at digitaldoomsday.org, spelled DOMES, Doom. That is actually a prototype of the Digital Doomsday, and it's one chapter that we've completed. And we've deployed it, and then we use that to seek funding. So it's kind of a way to get these things in front of people without a lot of politics and other blockers that usually happen when in a large organization. The core components, so these have been developed in-house, these three components. There's obviously an image server, and there's a search service that works as well that indexes the content. But I guess the core component is actually the MIFI annotation server, where the annotations are stored, and as I mentioned, the sort of provenance of the who did what to those annotations are kept in that system. Ended up building a viewer to be able to demonstrate some of the features that we needed. So that was searching collections using content 2.0. So it has a very strong focus on displaying annotations, but search across collections. So that was a piece of work that sort of needed to happen for the baseline requirements for Digital Doomsday. And something that we're really interested in the organisation is opening access to our collections through computational access. There's a lot of tension again around this because we're under attack like a lot of other institutions. And it's like good and bad actors. I know there's a birds of a feather around this topic. We struggle really heavily with that because we're .gov.uk. So .gov.uk gets hammered, and that changes around political situations and all kinds of other like external situations. So we kind of have to deal with that. But we want to give access, but then opening access to our main stack isn't going to happen. So with IIIF-in-a-Box, we can open access to a box, and on a project basis. So the project can kind of go through a process to decide what access you give. So there's more governance for this type of work, and especially if it's a project that's only going to run for like maybe 1 or 2 years. And yeah, so the things that I'm looking to do now with this work is replace my viewer with a much better viewer. So Universal Viewer, we actually use Universal Viewer internally on projects. So because we're a large organisation, there's a lot of things that aren't public facing, but we actually do use some of these technologies. You just don't see them. Yeah, I'm looking to when annotation and search and those features are released into Universal Viewer, I'm looking to basically swap out. And the thing about IIIF-in-a-Box, you can just swap out components, because essentially it's just Docker containers with Nginx in front of them. So it's not tied to any particular technology. And then we need to go through this secure by design process. So everything that we release has to go through these sort of government sort of versions of what cyber sort of checks we have to do. So there's still some work to be done, but yeah, I should have put a link to. I realised I should have put a link to the software, but it's basically on my GitHub, which is not really useful because you don't know what that is. But it will be on our National Archives GitHub shortly. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Derek Lomas. I'm director of the digital collection at the Embassy of the Free Mind in Amsterdam. This is our brand new website. It launched last week. And this library is special. It has a Guinness record for the largest library devoted to magic and mysticism. It is a really, really special place. And I've been going there for the past few years. I'm a design professor at TU Delft, and much of my work focuses on design philosophy. And so looking at topics like harmony and resonance, which are esoteric topics, I found this library to be incredible. The problem is that it's all in Latin, or most of it. And I have a couple years of Latin, but it's really not good enough. And so I started working with them to translate their Latin works, which you can find up here in their digitized catalog. Now, there are probably on the order of 300,000 Latin works from the Renaissance, and about 3% of them have been translated. Many people don't know that. They think that Latin, we've kind of covered that. The Loeb Classical Library is incredible, but very, very little of it has anything to do with the Neo-Latin works of the medieval and Renaissance. And I think Marx even published in Latin. I also don't read German. I know I'm married to a German, but I don't read German. I don't read French. There's a lot of languages I don't read. Actually, I only read English. And so the thing is that we were working with the Embassy of the Free Mind, and it was taking a long time to get their digitized works. Now, Dan Brown, the author of Da Vinci Code, he donated to scan these books because he wrote much of the Da Vinci Code based on the works in the collection, which is also known as the Bibliotheca Philosophica Hermetica. And so these books were kind of locked away in a sort of outdated database system. And so we were waiting for this. And I was busy trying to build a pipeline to translate these books with the new Gemini 3 models, which we heard earlier today are just incredible for transcription and translation. And I was impatient. And I was also trying to do my research on metadata standards for library. I knew some of the standards, but and then I stumbled across IIIF, and I had no idea, and it was so magical. And because of that, we created this organization called sourcelibrary.org, and this is where we are trying to translate the Renaissance. And because of IIIF, we've now done 15,000 books. It's not so easy to prove a negative, but it seems that about 8,000 or so of these books have never been translated before. And not just the back catalog, some really, really incredible books like Robert Flood's The Greater and Lesser of Two Worlds, where there's selected translations here and there, but no one took the time to translate a 1,000-page Latin tome that has beautiful imagery. And I can go find some of that imagery if I come up here and let's see here, I'm not signed in right now. But, well, I'll just go into it because, I'm going to find him anyway. If I just go into one of these collections here, we'll see what's going on. And, well, a lot of these books have really incredible illustrations. And, here's Jakob Böhme. And, they have little bits of Latin in there. We wanted to be able to, let's see, let me go to... So this is what we've got. We've got a facing page system where you can see the original text and you can see the OCR, if it's still appropriate to call it OCR these days, and you can see the language models that were used. So here it's the 3 flash model, and then you have the English over here. Now, when you throw these things into search, if you use Claude, so we've got an MCP, you can connect to this. This is all free. This is all AGPL, open source, Creative Commons. And if you connect to the MCP, it is just incredible because not only are there the Latin works that I don't read, there's also the Chinese works and the Sanskrit works, the Armenian works. There's so much that I can't read. And now, with Claude, being able to do these cross-cutting investigations. So the Embassy of the Free Mind, they focus on things like alchemy. Well, there's a huge Sanskrit alchemy tradition. There's a huge Chinese alchemy tradition, and no one is an expert in all three. And being able to find these links, to be able to put all of these books in one place so you can search through it all, and to be able to search by images too, is really, really, really fun. So this whole talk is basically a love letter to IIIF. Like, really, what you guys have done is remarkable. It's magical. I didn't know it existed, and I felt like I was just able to take advantage of this. So I want to buy you all drinks, and I really encourage you to check out the source library. I also encourage you to visit the Embassy of the Free Mind, and again, that's embassyofthefreemind.com. And there's 2,222 books that are digitized and translated that are up there. And it's in Amsterdam on Keizersgracht 123. Source library is on the 4th floor, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm really into Pythagoreanism. On Thursday evening, this conflicts with other things, but if you would like to and you come chat, we're having an official beta launch of Source Library. I hope to be in touch with all of you, and I just thank you for the work that you do.
I thank you for the work you will do as well. Thank you. Hello, my name's George Oates. I'm a designer. I run a little company in London called Deep Keep. This story starts with research that we conducted as a group recently about how millions of Flickr members feel about their own digital legacy. And we published a report called Death is Not an Edge Case, where we found that 82% of survey respondents have thought about their digital legacy, but only about 12% have done something about it. We feel there's a somewhat consistent question emerging across these huge social platforms we all use about what to do with all of our personal digital things. Does anyone else know which of your things matter? We rely heavily on copyright and licensing frameworks to manage transmission and ownership of things, but it's our contention that copyright isn't always a good fit for complex cultural things, and it doesn't say anything about privacy or perpetuity. And in our experience, people can have quite sophisticated hopes for their working digital materials and physical things, and there's a realization that your family possibly isn't the right group to inherit it, which is often what happens in these digital services. We have 1 billion diaries online now, today, just waiting to be collected for future culture lovers. So today, I'd like to announce the first projects of the little company, Deep Keep. It's a new open protocol called KeepRight. We've created KeepRight to help people who haven't done anything yet about their digital legacy, the other 88% of us. And we hope this helps get out in front of the huge preservation challenge we can see coming for early 21st century digital materials. KeepRight is an open protocol to specify instructions for long-term stewardship. Here's how it works. This is the workflow. Basically, it's optional to say who you are in the declaration, but we recommend it if you're the responsible party. The material can be anything. It can be physical, digital, or both. I was even thinking, Albin, as you were talking, you could make a KeepRight declaration for your project to say what you would hope to have happen to it. And then you do these things called instructions, which we split into 3 types, at least for now. Maybe there'll be more. Who can keep it, who can copy it, and can machines use it? Once you've made your declaration, you can put it anywhere or link back to the copy that we keep. So just to have a quick look at those instructions. The first is KeepRight. So you're able to say, who would you like to keep? Who would you like to take care of this thing? You could even suggest a particular archive or museum that you know is related to the content. You can also say who should be able to see it and under what conditions. You can say who can make copies and what kind of copies they can make, and where those digital copies should live, which is a couple of important questions for archivists. And thirdly, machine right. How can machines and programs interact with this material? You know, if this is used by an AI, what's important to you about it? Do you want to be credited for it? Do you want to know how it was used, et cetera, et cetera? Here's a declaration I made about this presentation. It was going to be a video. I'm afraid that's not going to work. But the point is, now it has a URL that travels with the work. So I'll be sure to put that URL into this presentation just in case. The other feature I'm excited about is our use of its complicated fields, or it depends. At various points in the declaration, we offer this as a way to describe a situation that you can't really get at with a yes or no answer. So for example, for my example declaration, in the what's the copyright or licensing status question, I've said it's complicated because we'll probably release these slides openly at some point, but I didn't do that in time for this presentation today. Why am I here? Well, because we're launching a new open protocol, obviously we wanted to show an integration with you guys because you're the best community of practice operating in this zone today. So we've zeroed in on the see also field, which actually we haven't tested with 4.0 yet, so I'm hoping nothing's changed from yesterday to today with the see also field. But it's really simple to call. We've got an API and everything. We're doing all the right things in terms of the spec, etc. You can download the declarations in a variety of formats, including JSON. We've also done example integrations with Dublin Core Framework, which you can link to. You can see you could just link to the same sort of URL. We've also done an example integration with Baguette, which is a popular transporter droid. Here's a spec on GitHub. And we're still not even at version 1, so we'd really like to get your input on what's important to you as culture workers. You know, if you were to, for example, begin collecting materials from the contemporary web, you could look to adopt KeepRight in your framework. You could also use KeepRight theoretically as a steward yourselves. If you're digitizing things, you could use a declaration to state your purpose and your intentions with the stuff. But yeah, that's really all I've got to say. Thanks for a lovely day. I'll be lurking around if you have any questions, and I'd love to hear what you think. Thank you very much.